Hey there. If you have ever stared down a big research paper, you know that feeling, right? You've got stacks of articles, a million tabs open on your browser, and this feeling of just total chaos. Well, today we are going to turn all of that chaos into crystal clear clarity.
Does this feel a little too real? You're basically adrift in this giant sea of potential sources, and it's so easy to feel completely and totally overwhelmed. I mean, you're not just grabbing facts, you're trying to build a real argument, and honestly, it's tough to figure out where to even start.
But what if I told you there's one single tool that can organize all your thoughts, deepen your understanding, and sharpen your argument before you even type a single sentence of your paper? Well, there is. It's called the Annotated Bibliography, and trust me, it's your new research secret weapon.
So here's the game plan. First, we'll talk about why this thing is such a powerhouse. Then, we'll break down what it actually is. After that, we'll get into the 3 key actions you need to write a great one. And finally, we'll see how it all comes together with a real example. Ready?
Okay, first things first, let's just reframe how we think about this. This is not just another tedious assignment to check off a list. No way. Think of it as your strategic command center. It's the move that puts you in complete control of your research, turning that messy chaos into a clear path forward.
So what is an annotated bibliography, really? Well, the name itself kind of gives the whole game away. If you understand its 2 parts, you've pretty much unlocked its power.
Let's break it down. It's super simple. You've got the bibliography part. That's just the list of sources you're using. You've made those before. But the real magic, the secret sauce, is in the annotation. That's the short note you write for each source, where you capture what it's about and what you think of it. That's it.
And when you put those 2 things together, you get this. It's your standard list of citations, but each one has this crucial little paragraph after it, where you get to think critically about the source. You could say it's a bibliography that actually thinks.
So you might be asking, why bother? Why not just make the list and call it a day?
Well, because the real power isn't in just listing the sources, it's in the thinking that goes into it. This is the moment you stop being a collector of information and you start truly understanding it. And this is exactly how it helps you win. Because you have to write these little annotations, you are forced to dig deeper, to read way more critically. And that critical reading, it helps you build a much stronger thesis because you start to see what the experts are actually debating. Suddenly, you're not just on the sidelines. You're developing your own informed point of view.
The folks at Purdue's Online Writing Lab just nail it with this quote. The whole process gives you perspective, and that is so important. Research isn't just about finding facts, it's about understanding a conversation, a dialogue that's been happening for years. The annotated bibliography is your ticket into that conversation.
Okay, so you're probably sold on the why, but what about the how? How do you actually write a good one? Well, it all comes down to 3 simple but really powerful actions. Just burn these 3 words into your brain. Summarize, assess, and reflect. That's it. That's the whole formula. Every single great annotation does these 3 things. It's your repeatable recipe for success. First up, you summarize. This is just the basic what. In a few sentences, what is this thing about? What's the main idea? If you had to explain it to a friend in 30 seconds, what would you say? That's your summary.
Next, you assess. Now you're going beyond the summary and you're asking, is this source any good? Is it reliable? Is the author totally biased? But maybe the most important question here is, how does it compare to your other sources? This is where you start figuring out its place in the bigger picture.
And finally, we get to the most important step of all, reflect. This is where you make it all about you. How does this article or book fit into your project? How are you going to use it to build your case? Did it spark a new idea or change how you think? This is the bridge between their work and yours.
Okay, enough theory. Let's see what this actually looks like out in the wild. We're going to take those 3 key actions, summarize, assess, and reflect, and watch them come to life in a real example.
But before we do that, a super quick word on formatting. Now, the details are going to depend on whatever style guide you're using. APA, MLA, you know the drill. But the basics are pretty standard. You have your full citation with a hanging indent, and then the annotation paragraph is indented below it. But listen, here is the #1 most important rule of all. Always check your instructor's specific guidelines. That is your ultimate source of truth.
Okay, let's put it all together. You can see our 3 steps right here in action. First, you get the summary. This article focuses on the role of social capital.
Easy enough. Then the writer moves into the assessment. They note that some of the conclusions seem rather obvious. And finally, you see the reflection, where they decide that even with its flaws, the article provides useful background information for their project. Boom, the whole process right there in one short paragraph.
And here's the thing, when you do this, when you take the time to summarize, assess, and reflect on what other people have said, something incredible happens. You stop being just a passive collector of facts. You become an active, thinking, critical participant in the conversation. You've officially earned your seat at the table.
So the next time you start a research project, don't just see a boring list of sources. See them for what they really are. Voices in a huge, ongoing dialogue. They're all talking. The only question left is, are you ready to join the conversation?